I'm Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation, Real People, Real Conversations, and Real Success. And I feel really blessed because I constantly meet these amazing people because I keep on learning these new things, new insights that can actually help me transform my life. And so even more importantly, what I like to bring to you is, the real people, real conversations, and real success of others so that you can make that happen for you. Because in this world with so much information, it's kind of hard to filter out what's real and what's not. And so I'm delighted to be talking to Nimisha today from Moon Cycle Nutrition. And the topics are kind of really cool for me because, I went to medical school many, many moons ago, or many years ago, I guess. But she has studied some stuff that's like mind blowing. I mean, what is it? Pre-med psychobiology, not neuroscience. I mean, that would have been a jam for me. And then the other one is Ayurvedic nutrition. So these are really cool things that have to become much more mainstream. And it's thanks to people like Nimisha that you will get access to that. So Nimisha, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Dr. Rademacher, for having me today. I'm so excited.
So we met on Clubhouse, which is really cool. And I love the fact that in Clubhouse, it's all about authentic conversations. You just focused on the voice, and you can tell if you can resonate and connect with people. And for whatever reason, I connected with you. But more importantly, I was really excited about your background because this is the stuff that we need to know more about. As the medical profession is kind of losing sight on the stuff that you teach us. So I'm really excited to be talking to you today about something that's really fundamental in our lives, but it's one of the first things that I think that most of us really ignore, and that's our connection with nature and the environment and the importance of that, not just for ourselves but also for the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. So tell us, your thoughts on that connection.
Great. What we have inside of us is called a gut microbiome. We have all of these bacteria, pathogens, viruses living harmoniously within us. And it's a beautiful symbiotic relationship. But that relationship also starts with our external environment. So as babies, we crawl around and we eat dirt and we play and, put our toes in our mouth. But even before that, we are birthed with our mother's microbiome and through the breastfeeding journey and the skin to skin contact. So really the baby is inoculated with a microbiome from external factors. And that is why our environment plays such a big role in our health. And so if we have healthy soils, we have clean air, we have really nutritious food to eat, not food that's been grown in monocrops and massive fields, but like really using regenerative farming where the nutrients are really in the soil, then we get to eat that food and that nourishes our gut microbiome. And we know that our gut microbiome is also where like 70% of our immune system is. It's where like 90% of our serotonin is. And, our we have neuron cells in our gut lining. And so our gut is constantly communicating with our brain, but also our heart, our reproductive organs. And so it's the seat of our life, but it really starts with our external environment.
I think the our ancient teachers from Greece from 2,000 years ago, I think they were on something when they were talking about how important our gut was, and also by stating, we are what we eat. Now that came actually a lot later with some innovative thinkers in the last couple of centuries. But what I think is mind blowing to me is when I discovered this whole concept of microbiome, and that's something as a medical doctor we were never taught, and I'm not so sure they're teaching much of it today. But when we have 70,000 or 70 trillion cells in our body, we have 700 trillion microorganisms. That blew me away.
Right. They say more microbiome than there are stars in the sky in the Milky Way. So
Wow.
I'm not sure how they calculate that, but it is really fascinating. And our microbiome actually weighs more than our brain. Um, Yet it's all compacted into our guts.
So really it's an organ in itself. And I think those people who recognize that And what's really cool is the work that I do in regenerative medicine. I address that with all my patients because it's that microbiome that when it's out of balance, I mean, you were talking about how it can live harmoniously with us, symbiotically with us. But when we have bad, food choices or lifestyle choices, then there's an imbalance and that can affect us negatively. But I'm curious though, from with your background, how is it that you teach your clients or educate your clients as to find a better connection with nature? Because I think it's more than just the microbiome. I think it's a lot more with just our spirituality, our emotions, our mentality, and also the gratitude that we have towards nature. And if we ignore all that, then we're really disconnected.
Yeah, so, simple ways we can incorporate more awareness of nature around us is to really spend time in nature, get out outside of our homes and really get barefoot in the dirt and the grass. Don't be afraid to hug a tree. And I know that sounds really woo-woo, but, trees have energy fields and humans gravitate towards that. So, kids love climbing up trees. And I think sometimes we just need to return to our inner childhood and embrace that play. The other way is to start growing our own food. You can put herbs in your windowsill. You can kale is really hardy to grow. It's hard to kill kale. So you can grow something like that and really start connecting, but also just have more plants in your home. NASA has a list of like 17 plants that are really great house plants that help clean up the environment and
Oh,
kill
wow.
off things like pathogens, formaldehyde, mold. So have those more in your home as well, in your connection that way. And then really also that gratitude piece that you brought up. We need to have more appreciation for our food supply chain also. Where does our food come from? Who's growing it? How did it get to our plate? Sometimes people get caught up in having the fanciest green juice, but they're so disconnected from it. And I think that disconnected doesn't serve us very well.
You raise a really good point because I constantly am thinking about this is that, where does all this food come from and how much is actually wasted? What if we were a lot more conscious, not only, how we eat and when we eat and what we eat, we'd probably be a lot healthier, but our entire planet would also be a lot healthier because there wouldn't be so much waste. I mean, I think it's crazy to think, and maybe you can enlighten us on this one because I recently heard that there was about 50 cycles left, for the soil for farming, before there's not enough nutrients to grow. And you talked about regenerative farming. I mean, do you have any thoughts or enlighten us on that part?
Right. So, we are in a climate crisis right now, and a large part of it is because of how we're farming our food. And many, many people don't know how our food is grown or where it's grown. And that's why we have people in Silicon Valley making meat in labs now because they think that's a solution. And that's again another ego play, another disassociation from our earth. Actually all of the answers lie in our own soil, in our own backyard. And so with regenerative farming, it's really using again all the animals to sequester carbon. It's growing crops that are aligned with the seasons. We're not meant to have watermelon in the summertime. I mean, in the winter time, we're meant to have it in the summertime. And so we've really just connected with even the rhythms of the earth and our own inner rhythms. And in Ayurvedic medicine, in Ayurvedic sciences, there's a saying: we are the microcosm of the macrocosm, meaning we're just a reflection of the earth. We also go through with the cycles, and I think if we can quickly adapt to that, we can really turn things around with this climate crisis.
It's interesting what you're saying right there, and ultimately it is a reflection I mean, we are a reflection of what's happening around us, or the world is a reflection of what we are doing to the planet. And when you think about it, we've evolved over thousands and millions of years, and when you talk about harmony and symbiosis, I mean, we've been living in harmony with the planet, with the natural vibrations. And so, what we have done essentially since the Industrial Revolution is we've created so much havoc, so much disruption on our planet that it can't be healthy and it can't be sustainable. And so, I get it that people are excited about, manufacturing meat in the laboratory, but I agree with you. That just doesn't make any sense to me. It can't be natural. And there are things that we just don't understand about how our planet functions. It's kind of, and this is no criticism of the amazing scientists and the amazing geniuses that are trying to solve our world problems, but I think they miss the essential point, is that we've got a fundamental relationship with the planet and we've got to maintain that. And so I commend you for bringing up this topic as to how we must remain connected to nature and honor the natural rhythms.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that it comes back to also that gut microbiome. How much can we replicate that in a lab versus if we were just to go out and breathe fresh air and, eat food that we've grown or that's grown nearby to us and seasonally. And actually, scientists are now discovering that our microbiomes also have a season. And yeah, isn't that so cool? And then so if we're not eating also seasonal foods, we're creating that dysbiosis internally. And it goes back to it's what's happening externally too in our environment.
Let me ask you a question though, because a lot of people like to use probiotics, and I get the whole concept of probiotics, and probiotics I'm assuming is really quite healthy. But if you are starting off with a dysbiosis, shouldn't you correct that first before you get onto probiotics?
Yes. And that's what it's all about, getting to the root cause. And so we will never be able to out supplement a bad diet or a bad lifestyle, or not to say bad, but the wrong one, and, we can't out medicate ourselves. So what is the reason for our dysbiosis? Is it because we don't have enough fiber in our diets? And that's usually the number one reason. Americans get a third of the fiber that they should be getting. And so increasing more plant-based foods, and that are whole foods, not, crackers can be considered plant-based too, but I'm talking about vegetables and lentils and nuts and seeds. And then the other is our lifestyle. Certain yoga poses actually stimulates our vagus nerve, which is really good for our gut microbiome as well. So movement is a huge piece. And then sleep. Most of us are not getting that deep, restful 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. And our brain does a lot of detox work when we're sleeping and cleaning out all the dead cells and all of that. So if we're not sleeping also, then that's causing dysbiosis. So we really want to address those. The probiotics, a lot of it is just fancy marketing. So, no, and probiotics will only do you good as long as you take them, but but when you stop taking them, they don't stick. You don't fundamentally change your microbiome, especially if everything else hasn't been addressed.
So do you recommend a particular lab test for your microbiome, your gut microbiome? Is there a particular company that you like to work with?
A lot of them are kind of in the beta phase, I would say. We're really early on in the research with how to take a microbiome test and then apply it in our daily life. And most, even microbiologists, will agree with me saying that it really just comes down to what's on your plate and how you're living your life, despite of what the test says. Of course, there are more extreme cases with people who have like actual gut infections, like SIBO or some sort of ulcer. Those then having your specific lab tests done to help address that major health issue can be super helpful. I actually recommend a stool analysis, like a comprehensive stool analysis, where then you can tell how healthy your stool is, and then also if you have any gut infections and if you're absorbing nutrients, and that's a good starter. But a lot of the other mark they're just marketed right now, and it's hard to have a clinical application with them.
So as a clinical nutritionist, do you work with a lot of doctors, and do you find that they're pretty receptive, or let me say this, give you the time to have them be educated?
Yes. So I've been in this field for 15 years, and we've definitely come a long way with acceptance as food as medicine. 15 years ago, I was working at a research study at UCLA, co-authoring it, seeing the role of B vitamins in autism. And that was a very novel concept 15 years ago. And so now it's an accepted fact that our microbiome plays a big role in childhood diseases and things like autism. So we have come a long way, and more of the younger doctors, I would say, are more receptive to integrative medicine. But one of the very first doctors I worked with, he was in his 60s, a GI doctor, and the reason why he sought me out was because his daughter had post-infectious irritable bowel syndrome, and nothing he was doing in his office was helping her. And so he was like, he sought me out, and that is where we built a beautiful relationship. And so I think more people are coming around to this concept of integrative care.
No, that's awesome. Um, so I think it's so important for the listeners to understand that, a statement that you made, and is that you can't out supplement a bad diet. And I like to eat as much raw as I can, at least raw vegetables or raw fruits, because that clearly is a lot healthier, I'm assuming. But the question that I find fascinating to ask you, because this is not something I already thought of before, and the relevance of the seasonal aspect of our fruits and vegetables. And as I think about it, as we have evolved over millions of years, part of what our bodies are doing is an attunement with the vibration of the earth. And so clearly I can see the relevance of the seasonal aspect. So if how do we find out what are the seasonal fruits and vegetables that we should be eating?
Yeah. Well, at first, I want to address what you said about the raw foods. I think diet has to be personalized, and not one diet suits everybody.
Right.
So raw works for you, but for someone like me, actually, raw foods really upset my stomach if I eat too much of it. And so there's that personalization where medicine is moving towards. And two, how do we find out what's in season? Go to the farmer's market. Farmers are really growing what's in season. They're smaller. They're not the mass scale farmers, so they really are attuned with what's happening with the cycles. And so in the summertime, you get more fruits. Your stone fruits and watermelons and more foods that you can actually eat raw because it's hotter outside. But then in the winter time, it's more apples and pears and citrus foods, foods that are really high in vitamin C. So I would say shop at the farmers market. It's easy to go online and look up foods that are seasonal and local to your region as well, because um, we everyone is a different hemisphere as well.
And thanks for that correction, because what's true is, and your studies of Ayurvedic nutrition, they make very distinctions, specific distinctions about your type of body and the types of food, whether it's cold food or hot food. So yes, it definitely has to be personalized. And that's a struggle I've always had. How do I, justify all these different, dietary programs, and everybody's, suggesting that theirs is the best. And you're so right. I mean, it has to be individualized. And that's where we have to become our own personal scientist and experimenter and figure out, what is best for us. Well, I want to thank you for today. This has been great. I know we have 2 more parts with this program, but right now I'd like to find out, how do people find you?
So they can visit my website, mooncyclenutrition.com. I'm also really receptive on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is @mooncyclenutrition. And so those are the 2 best places to find me.
Awesome. Nimisha, thank you so much. And I am Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation: Real People, Real Conversations, and Real Success, tapping into that authentic genius within us so that we can live the life that we desire. And it's really tapping into that intelligence so that we understand what is best for us. But we need the people around us, like Nimisha, to guide us and to help us understand what that is. Thank you, and I'll be back.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Dr. Rademacher's Prescription for Your Transformation. Continue the path towards discovering your own authentic genius by tuning in next time for more real conversations with real people.